So it seems that the architects of the banking disaster are telling us we better pay up or something really awful will happen. Like maybe them having to pay themselves out of their problems. Well, it's Zach, and feel free to argue. I've been kind of watching this whole bailout thing unfold, and I'm doing my part. I'm sent a letter to the editor this morning. I wrote to my Congress people, all of them. But it looks like we're just going to go ahead and buy this. And by buy it, I guess it's only buying in the sense that giving somebody a whole bunch of money for no apparent reason and not getting anything in return could be considered buying something. Buying the farm, perhaps. Just to give you an example of the kind of thing I think we all should be doing, here's the letter I sent to Tammy Baldwin. Now, I'm not sure about Herb Cole because I don't follow him as much. I just tend to write him letters. But I know that Russ Feingold and Tammy Baldwin are both pretty right-thinking about this. So I almost feel kind of futile writing letters to them because they were some of the few people in Congress who, have a brain in their head and care about the American people at all. But anyway, this is what I wrote because this is just to give you an idea. This is the kind of really simple thing that you need to write to people. Dear Tammy, I'm against the bailout of the bank majors. If there must be a bailout, please make sure that it includes legislation that prevents this from happening again and also gets American taxpayers some real value for their bailout dollar. And please make sure there is no executive compensation. The people who bankrupted our country with their irresponsibility absolutely do not deserve any more of our money. Thank you, Zach, my last name. Which I'll probably start using at some point in the near future anyway. Just because I don't think there's any point. I mean, what am I afraid of? The government. The government certainly knows my name and where I live. So I guess I might as well start doing that soon. In any event, I just don't believe that this whole thing is going to go down. I mean, it's around $1 trillion now. I mean, it's the $700 billion bailout plus the $200 billion for Freddie and Fannie plus the $82 million for AIG. And hey, you've heard about like the foreign banks now, right? Deutsche Bank, United Bank of Switzerland. Hey, come on, join the party. We're guaranteeing every bad loan that has been made by anyone, anywhere, at any point in human history. So, hey, as long as you're a bank, if you're a person who's having a little trouble with your mortgage, well, you know what that means. That's how much we care about you. And then, look at the Democrats just bowing and scraping and saying, well, I think that maybe they don't deserve all their full golden parachutes and, maybe we could get a couple of these other provisions stripped away, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, if you people in the banking industry and the Republicans wouldn't mind, maybe, I don't know, some legislation, to restore some of the stuff that used to be in there that prevented this from happening. Wow, we're not even allowed to be angry that these people wasted our money being stupid. On a certain level, I know this is going to hurt everybody, but I actually think it's funny that nobody is upset about this. I mean, I don't know how much more venal this gets. I mean, I guess since people don't actually see them, taking their money and going to a crap table and blowing it all, that they can't make the connection. That's essentially what these people have done. That it's really not any more sophisticated than that. I mean, Naomi Klein was just on the Young Turks the other day. In fact, I think I'll post a link to that video because it's very informative. And she says, this is just the first shock. First, we have to bail out these guys and their stupid party where they were making the most ridiculous investments ever and losing money and rewarding themselves for it. I mean, why haven't we gotten upset about this before? I mean, the last year, the major and the bank majors lost $79 billion. It's a lot of money, Not many companies can afford to lose $79 billion. But you know what? They didn't have to feel too bad about it, really, because they gave themselves $39 billion in bonuses. That's like you get a $500 million worth of bonus for every billion you lose. Is that the way compensation works these days? So, and I think in light of that, I think it's really hilarious that, the Republicans are saying, oh, it's an absolute deal breaker if we don't have corporate compensation for these executives. Wow, that's the deal breaker, huh? You guys just couldn't stomach the fact that perhaps these guys who have been so incredibly irresponsible might be forced to pay a little bit. Or, not even pay. Not get some of the riches that they were promised. See, people are all okay with this. That's why Americans are not writing letters and talking to everybody they know and, just putting up huge howls of outrage. It's okay for these enormously well-compensated people to also get their golden parachutes after they ripped us off and to get a big, huge bailout without any kind of, legislation. Like returning those pieces of legislation that we wrote into our laws after the Great Depression to ensure that this would not happen again. Who took all that stuff away? Well, it was good old nation of whiners Graham, the guy who wrote McCain's economic policy. We all remember that too, right? That the person who wrote John McCain's economic policy, because John McCain, he's just a foreign policy expert. He doesn't really know anything about the economy, so he needed to get help. And he got help, all right. He got help from good old Phil Graham, the man who is probably more responsible for the bank disaster than any other human being on the planet. So, and John McCain's going up in the polls, too. Have you noticed that? Isn't that wonderful? Clearly, people who think that the people to get us out of this crisis are the people who caused it. Sure, if that's the new logic, we'll try to roll with that. We'll see how well we're doing about a year from now when McCain's our president and we've more thoroughly deregulated the banking industry and, I don't know, is there anything they want anymore? It's kind of hard to think of what they might want aside from $1 trillion and no regulation. I don't know. Maybe if anybody, any of my viewers have any kind of tangential connection with the banking industry, you could tell me what's missing to make their lives more complete. What's that little thing that can put the cherry on the top of how beautiful their existence is right now in the international banking community? Well, that's about all I want to do in terms of ranting right now. I really suggest that, if you care at all about this, that you make a noise, whatever noise, you think is possible to make at this point. But for the time being, this is Zach, and, you can always feel free to argue. Or just laugh at the situation, because it looks like that's all you're going to be able to do about it, eh?